Hi, I'm Jim, and this is Jim's Fix-It Shop. And over the course of doing this, I have had a lot of questions on recoils, and I've never really done a video on one. I just recently, within the last day or so, had another question. A viewer sent in. He said, my rope broke. I took it to the dealer and they told me it was beyond repair. Well, there's not much in here outside of the rope, a plastic pulley, and a spring. I mean, what can break? So we're going to take this one apart and show you how to change the rope and what to do to wind it and all that good stuff. This one is off a Tecumseh engine. I couldn't find a Briggs in all my boxes of parts. I know there's a couple out there. So I just grabbed the Tecumseh. This one comes off of the housing. It makes it a little nicer so you can orient this in any direction as far as making it easier to pull the rope to start the engine, depending what you put the engine on. That's kind of nice. It's held on with 4 quarter 28 nuts that you're going to need a 7/16 wrench to get them off. Now again, all these are different, not only from Briggs and Tecumseh and Honda and all the rest of the engines, but even with a Tecumseh, different size engines will have different recoils and parts inside of them. Now on this engine, on top of the flywheel, there's a cup with notches on the inside of it. Your nut goes down inside of there and holds the flywheel to the crankshaft. These little dogs, when you pull the rope, they spin out. They catch inside of that little steel cup on them. They stamp some, I guess, bumps, for the lack of terminology here, that these will catch against, and that's what spins your engine over. So we're going to pull this handle apart here. A couple of these little spring clamps are going to be handy. We're going to clamp this one right now on that rope. Now this is just a rubber handle with a metal insert. We want to pull that insert out of there, because that's what the knot is inside of. If you just had the knot in this rubber handle without this hunk of sheet metal, you would probably pull the knot right through the handle. Now we want to wiggle this knot out of this little piece. If you can see this, it's down inside of there. It's bent like a C, and we got to wiggle this out of here. Okay, now we're going to cut that knot off, and we're going to pretend that our rope broke. This is what's going to happen. It's going to retract, and it's going to totally unwind the spring. Now what you want to do is get yourself a 3/8 wrench for this particular one. We're going to unscrew the center bolt. And I'm not sure what size this bolt is yet until I get it out of here. And this one looks like it's a quarter 20. And there's a lot of parts on here. You don't want to mix these up. This bolt is a shoulder bolt. So as you're tightening this stuff up, the bottom of that shoulder will hit the top of this pin in the cover to the proper torque, and your pulley will still be able to spin. Now you want to pull this off of here. This is our rope that's broke. you want to take the piece that's in your handle and measure it. You want to take the piece that's on your pulley and measure that. That's all the rope you need. Don't make it longer, because what will happen is you can see this rope is pretty close to the edge. If you put more rope in there than it's supposed to be, the rope is going to rub on the inside of this cover and it's not going to retract all the way. Then you want to count. Now we've cut this off and lost some length, so we're going to say this was down to this end where it's through the pulley. There's one revolution, and we're going to pull this off. There's 2. Here's 3. This is 4. It's wrapped around there 4 times. That's important. Remember that. Now we're going to pull this out of here because this is broke. Now this is a spring. Sometimes when these things break on you, if you pull the rope out and it doesn't retract anymore, that's the spring is bad. Sometimes they break. Sometimes if you let them snap in there too fast, the spring will come unhooked. Some springs have a hook on the end of them, and they'll hook somewhere on the back side of this pulley. This one does not. This one's contained inside of a little metal cup. But the spring did come out of place. You can see right here on the end of the spring, if I get the light right, there's the end of that spring is wound tight into a circle. And on this side, there's a half circle machined into that boss. So you want to turn this till that snaps down in there. That's where it has to be. Now some of them you'll have fun trying to get that in there and get the end of that spring that has the hook on it, the outside end, hooked on the outside of this pulley. This one you just set down on there. But the top of this pulley has a recess in it. That's where that washer goes. That recess has to be below the top of this boss, or when you tighten it up, it's going to bind up on you and it's not going to work right. You want to get that so it snaps down on there. So that boss is sticking up above. See, now the whole thing came out. That contains a spring. If it wasn't for that, the spring would be all over the place. We got to get this thing down on there to where we want it. You just got to keep turning it and trying to get it down where it belongs. There, it snapped in. I don't know if you can tell, but that boss is sticking up above the top of the pulley. That's where you want it. Now we'll take this little assembly and screw it back down in there. And you got to play with these dogs to get them out of the way so you can get this little piece of sheet metal down in there. That's what flips them out when you pull the rope. And just tighten this up. It doesn't have to be torqued down, just snug it up good. And the pulley should spin freely. If it doesn't, take it apart, you got something bound up. Now, our old rope, or this will be the new rope, it wrapped around the pulley 4 times. So as you can see how this goes around, when you pull the rope, the pulley's going to turn in this direction. So you want to turn that. It'll line up this square, that's where the knot was, with this hole where the rope comes out. You want to turn that 4 times. If you don't, when you pull the rope out, it won't retract all the way. Take your handy clamps, stick them on here and keep this thing from spinning on you. You want to have this square where the knot goes lined up with this exit hole. Now this is the fun part. When you get a rope and you cut it, it's going to fray. And it's going to become bigger than what this hole is in the pulley and the hole in the housing. And it's not going to go through. So you get yourself a rubber glove. Oh, that one broke. Some of them gloves are pretty cheap, because you definitely don't want one with a hole in it. You're going to make this end of this rope a little smaller. Now if you have heat shrink tubing, that would work. Put it on here and shrink it down. What I normally do is I use super glue. That's why you want the glove. Just put some super glue on the end of this rope. Then you're just going to make it round with your fingers. This will make it stiffer and to a nice point so it'll go through that hole better. Now if you don't want to wait for the glue to dry, super glue is moisture activated. That's why it sticks so fast on your fingers. Just dip it in some water. Where you buy your super glue, they'll sell this expensive activator. You really don't need it. It'll dry with water instantly. Just dry it off a little bit and it's dry. Now it may be hard to get it through that hole because this is going to be stiff. So you want to bend that a little bit, kind of like a hook. Bring it through that hole. Pair of needle nose. Get it to come out the end of the case. Now, when you tie the knot on this end of the rope, if you don't want, it's got an awful lot sticking out. We're going to cut that off. If you want to make sure that doesn't come untied, glue it. Dip it in some water and pull it through. Without that little extra piece sticking out, that fits down in there a lot better. This end of the rope, stick it through your handle. Stick it through the metal cap. Now again, these are all different. Tie your knot. Now if you want to make sure this end don't come untied, put some super glue on it. Squirt a little bit on the joints where the rope is touching and dip it in some water. Pull it into your metal cap, which might be a little hard because it's stiff from that glue. Pull the cap into your handle. Take your clamps off. Keep your fingers out of the way and let it retract. Your dogs are working. Now, if them seem to be a little sticky, oil them up. Or you could just take them right off if you want to and wire brush them a little and clean them. And the shaft sticking up that the pulley slides on, a little bit of anti-seize would help to keep that from getting freezing up on you. And you can turn this in any direction that makes it easier for you to start your engine. And that's it. I just can't understand why they told that man that his recoil was beyond repair. There's nothing in there. Sometimes if you pull them and let them snap in too fast, the spring will come unhooked. I've seen some where the hook on the end of the spring breaks, but that is normally, you can tell when that happens when you pull your rope out and it doesn't recoil. That's a bad spring. That's all there is to it. 15-20 minutes, you got the thing fixed and you're back on the mower cutting grass. So until next time, work safe, have fun, and don't forget to subscribe. Hopefully it'll help me out down the road someday if I get enough subscribers. If you have any questions or comments, put them in that little box below or send me an email. And until then, we'll talk to you soon. So long.